Hello, you're listening to Denver Cyphers.
Hey, this is Pat Moore, also known as Otto. You are listening to Denver Cyphers.
Hey, everybody. I'm just hopping into this whole podcasting thing, and the goal of Denver Cyphers is to honestly just meet people, talk to them in the Colorado area, in the Denver, Colorado area, whether they're from here, they live here now, they're creating, they're helping the community, or something else that's kind of related to our area. So, yeah, I appreciate you listening. A bit slow at getting these out, but I do plan to do this for some time. This is episode one, and yeah, recording a few more episodes here shortly, and episode two should be out in about a week. And yeah, without further ado, this is a good friend of mine, known from college. His name is Pat Moore, also goes by the name of Otto. He's kind of into everything.
That's where I'm from is kind of always a weird thing because
Yeah.
I'm born in Germany, but I grew up in Colorado Springs, suburbia kind of lifestyle. But the after living in Germany for about 5 years, because I didn't stay in Germany. It was kind of like I was born there, then I was brought to the U.S., and then I moved back there. But it was during like that period of like it was like 97, 2000, where it's like your childhood memory stuff. So I have this like weird association where technically I'm not German, but I speak German, and my mother's family's from Austria, so I have this like kind of like where am I from kind of thing. But really, I'm about as Colorado native without being Colorado native. It's the only state I've ever lived in. So, yeah, and we know each other through college. Yeah. So from Colorado Springs, I was like, what the fuck is the exact opposite of Colorado Springs? How the fuck do I get out of here? My parents were like, you can only go to college in state. And I was like touring around at all the colleges, and Boulder was it. So, yeah, that's how we met. And yeah, that's where I'm from. So, yeah.
And then there was you did program council, and then what?
That's true.
Would you? Because you've been busy like after college.
Yeah, after college, I did the most boring thing I possibly could do. I became a tax accountant, and then I did that for about one busy season, and I got laid off, and I was like kind of relieved because it was incredibly, incredibly boring.
Right.
Holy shit. Yeah, it was like miserable. You'd work like 70, 80 hours like on tax returns for 3 months straight, and you wouldn't like see your friends. You would get home like super late, and like it was miserable. And people like do that for an entire career, and I was like, no,
Not for you.
I'm good. Yeah, I need to like scratch that creative itch.
Right.
And so for the last 5 years, up until a couple months ago, I was in the consulting business for a big four company,
Okay.
which also done with because I wasn't, again, didn't have enough free time to be able to do scratch that creative itch. So,
Right.
but you're talking about all the other stuff that I've been up to. Because I started that Bento Bite, which was that media company for a while now, and then I've since branched off into more music and photography since then. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, you're kind of all over the place, which is cool.
Yeah, it's a little weird. I mean, because it's kind of like interesting when I meet people because it's like, at what period of my life do they know me from? And it's like the association of like what I had been into at the time. Like, me from program council, so that was like music industry, stuff like that. And then other people know me as like the anime guy from Bento Bite and stuff like that. And then others had been models and things like cosplayers and stuff that have shot with me that I've had the privilege to work with. And they all know me through the photography stuff. And then um, I also make beats and things like that. So some people know me only from like my pseudo weird moniker, and where I'm like, "Hi, I'm Otto, and this is my stuff. I take pictures of models and I make techno beats in my basement, like kind of thing like that." So
That's something I've always wondered about for a long time too, and I haven't asked you.
what's up?
Where did the auto come from?
So it started with gamertag actually. So in like the dorms, I was like an RA
Mm-hmm.
my sophomore year, and we had to create. There's this game called Worms Armageddon, And yeah, I don't know if you ever played it. You play these like little worms that just like nuke each other.
Okay.
And so the thing is, you could have accents on different characters. So they are always stereotypical, like accents for different countries. You had the French guys, and they sound very French. You had, the Scots, the Germans and stuff like that. So naturally, because I was born in Germany, in that association, it was like, oh, you should play as the Germans. And so you'd come up with individual names, and the captain's name was Otto von Shotgun. And then for a gamer tag, I just took the von out and slapped it together for Xbox Live, and then it just kind of like I couldn't come up with an Instagram handle, so when I created my Instagram account, I just like took my gamer tag and just put it on there. And then I started getting a following, and I was like, fuck, I can't change it now because now it's just like it's there. But I mean, Otto is always something I had because like for a year there, I had this fake DJ name where I was Otto Von Deeper,
Yeah.
and the group called the Nasty Nasties. And so
Okay.
we had this like thing going on the internet where we were like, oh, what's Otto doing? He's making deep house. We're going into the deepest oceans to make the fattest house for you. And like all of this shit. And I made a bunch of playlists. Actually, funny story about this. I made a playlist of like what my set list was going to be for this mix that I was going to put out.
Right.
And my brother was in a bar in Breckenridge, I think, and he like suddenly noticed he was playing like really weird house music that he like doesn't hear usually up there, because they're all like they listen to like hip hop and like reggae and stuff like that. It's like a bunch of beach bros, but they're up in the mountains.
Right.
And he's like, "This is so fucking weird. This sounds like something my brother listens to." He's like, "Oh, yo, what is it?" He's like, "Oh man, it's a set list from this guy called Otto Von Deeper." And so I like get a text from my brother like really late at night, and he's like, "Holy shit, you won't believe what the fuck is going on in Breckenridge." And I died of laughter. So kind of like as started as that, and then I just kept playing with the name and all this stuff, and then I went through a phase of because the photography started and it started being associated with my Instagram handle. So I was like, okay, well, how do I take the auto shotgun and then just kind of like, put it into something that makes more sense,
Mm-hmm.
and just shortening it to auto was the way to go. And so a friend of mine and I sat down and we did a bunch of, design ideas for the logo, and then that's just kind of how the brand was built and started. And so I just started slapping that on top of everything. It really started because in Bento Byte, I was taking all these pictures at conventions and, just like throwing it under the Bento Byte name. And we ended up getting other photographers working with us. And one guy was like, hey, what, how do people know that it's you, that you're the photographer behind it and stuff like that? Like, you just have the brand name on it. You don't have anything saying that it's you, the individual. And I was like, well, why do I need to do that? This is all about building the brand and blah, blah, blah. And as I got, older and stuff, and I was like, I kind of want to step away from doing this. Uh, it was kind of like, oh, maybe I should make something. And so that's how that all fed into each other. So yeah, it's been a weird journey. It's not even over yet. That's the weird best part. So yeah.
Was there like a period where because like we now know you're into all kinds of different stuff, but was there like something that was like a trigger where you're like, this is what's gonna make me go and do this, whether it was bento bite or photography or
Well, Bensovite was an exciting time because it was just like me and my buddy who lived on my couch in Glendale, Colorado. And we were both unemployed at the time. And then another friend of ours who started a very popular music, dance music blog called Your EDM was like, hey, let's make this thing based around anime. And I had only watched like Attack on Titan at that point. Like I'd seen like maybe two anime shows, and that was like basically my entire like dive into it, and I just went full tilt. And so it was exciting to do that. But I don't know. I don't know what caused me to transition. I think it was just like the crisis of knowing that Bento Bite wasn't forever, and that I was gonna have to move on to something else. And what was that thing? And people kept. I don't know how to describe it. Like basically, my Instagram kind of took off a little bit, and people started recognizing me like just as me for my photos, and I was like, this is kind of kind of fucking weird for me a little bit. But that's kind of like how I just decided to just take that and roll with it. So yeah, like I was at a convention and someone was like, I went to go take this person's picture, just like tapped her, and I was like, "Hi, can I grab a photo of you for my site and stuff like that?" And while I was like grabbing photos, she's like, "I've been really waiting to meet you like this whole time. Like, I'm so glad to be able to work with you. Thanks for taking my picture." And like walked off, and I was like, "What? What? 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 Okay, thanks. I'm glad to work with you too. I have no idea who you are. Okay."
What's
So
your
that was like,
handle?
yeah. Well, I mean, I obviously went and got her handle, but like, it's just like a weird. It's just weird to think that like it had reached that point where it was like, people recognize either the logo or the look or something like that, and like will actively like this 2 months ago, I was like in Norway, like in a bit of a funk, which is a weird thing to say. I was like on vacation, but in a funk. I was traveling by myself, so naturally I should never be left alone with my own thoughts.
Gotcha.
But I was sitting there and I was like, man, I just want to take some pictures, get ready for October and like spooky stuff. And I like threw out a post and I was like, oh, does anybody want to take some photos of spooky stuff and stuff? And then I got like 30 fucking messages and like all of this shit. And I was just like, oh, ooh, oh God. Oh, okay. So it's been fun. It's just weird to think that like, I always like looked at people who took pictures and stuff, and I was like, "Oh, that's a really cool but expensive hobby." Like, I don't know, like I would get into it if I could, but I don't know if that would ever happen. And now here I am, like full tilt, like have all this expensive shit to take all the right photos and all the same things, and it's just funny how life works like that. So, and then when I'm not doing that, I'm busy uh, dumping my time into designing something or playing music. So. Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering about because I before this I listened to a little bit of your stuff on
Oh,
SoundCloud.
did you? Oh God. Uh,
I'm just
yeah.
wondering, like, what do you want to go like deeper into music? Like,
The plan is always to go deeper into music. I think the biggest struggle for me is what style of music. Because I've made like synthwave. We did like a techno beat last 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. That we're not obviously not finished with. We need to like it's just the beat, so we gotta. It took us like 6 hours to get like all the side chaining and everything like that built up and ready to go before we even remotely touch synthesizers and whatnot. So it's been like hard picking what sound I exactly want to do. I feel like it'll always be house music, but it's just uh, I'll get there. I'm not like Phil, where Phil very much has a apparent trajectory, and I feel like I am like branching all over the fucking place, and I have like no idea what the fuck I'm doing. So I'm sure once something hits, it'll be the right thing, and I'll just dive in. So
for those of you at home, that's a house producer by the name of Future Phil out of Houston, Texas, that Pat and I know through college.
yeah,
But would you want to go Phil's route in terms of like shows and stuff, like playing
I think I totally would.
Estonia?
Yeah, I think that would be super fun. I mean, like, I bought a, after working, so like the whole reason I do like finance stuff and as a job is so I can pay for all my other hobbies and things like that, all stupid shit that I like to do all the time. But I finally bought like mixers and stuff so that I can be able to throw like parties where I can like mix for like an hour and a half or something like that, and like just
Right.
do a quick DJ set for like the guests and things. And if it sparked into something, then that would be cool. And maybe I would see how far that goes. But who knows? You know,
Yeah.
you never know. Maybe it like suddenly I'm into some other fucking thing, 5 years from now, and I'm off, running off doing some other artsy fartsy thing.
Synth metal video games.
Oh yeah, where I was like, last year was like all vaporwave, like everything, and I don't know what this year's aesthetic is, but it's been fun.
Random, because I'm pretty much just pulling everything you're into, like I feel like into one thing. So I'm not that much into anime,
Yeah.
but my like core understanding, I feel like anime is similar to like house music, and that there's like a million different subgenres, but there's like a few like
Oh yeah. There's like, I mean, it kind of depends on like is like a huge thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like saying like dance music. Like,
Right.
what is dance music? And you're like, oh, well, it's like tech house and it's,
Mm-hmm.
techno and, deep house and all stuff, future bass. You've got dubstep and whatnot. But it's kind of like whatever you're into because it can satisfy literally whatever itch anybody has. And, oh no, sorry, someone's calling me. Oh, Comcast sales department. Yeah, fuck you. It it's kind of like a medium where I don't know. I like never really got into it when I was earlier. I watched like DBZ when I was a kid and stuff like that, as I'm sure everybody else did, and Digimon and whatnot. And
Yeah.
I was always like, oh, isn't that kid stuff? But really, it can play to whatever anybody wants out of it. So if it's like, is there an anime about that? The answer is probably. So, I mean, what got me into it was like was Attack on Titan because I was like, oh, I heard this show's gruesome, and I was like, anime can be gruesome. Like, I guess sure. And then you watch the main character's mom. Spoilers, I'm sorry, but this show's been out forever, so I'm not gonna feel bad about it. But the main character's mom gets like eaten on screen and like ripped in half, and I was like, oh, holy fuck! And this was like while I was at that job where I was working crazy hours,
Right.
and I was like, oh my god, it's the era of Game of Thrones, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh my god, is there more? I must have. My roommate calls it my murder boner because it like shows where like they just kill people off willy nilly,
Yeah.
and so I was like binged it, and I went through like all the really horrific, hyper violent ones, and then it kind of sparked from there, and I was like, well, now I'm in the mood for something lighter and blah blah blah, or something that'll make me feel things, and
Right.
which spanned in. There's like music ones and stuff like that. There's spaghetti western themed ones. It's like literally just pick a genre and they probably have a show about it. But it has its dark side too. So there's like really weird tropes and stuff. Like there's a lot of weird, uncomfortable sexual tension between like brothers and sisters in anime, and that as a Westerner, I'm like, this is no, no, nah. And they're like, it's a stepsister though, and it's like, that still doesn't make this that much better, man. Like, really.
Fast forward
But I
real
mean,
quick.
like, if you once you get past those like weird, like, and it's not to say that like everything, most anime is guilty of like having those tropes and stuff like that. And once you like understand the tropes and you like get past it, then really it's just a medium you can just like have fun with, and it's whatever you want to make out of it. So a lot of people like it for different reasons. So
Would you make anime music? Synth anime.
um, anime music is
Vapor anime.
weird because it's like very quintessentially like Japanese rock is
Right.
very much most anime music, but occasionally they will dive into. So you say you haven't watched a lot.
Not
There's
much.
one.
No.
There is a couple of shows that I would recommend then, and I'm sure any person who watches anime would be listening to this is gonna roll their eyes and be like, "Of course you fucking recommended that. That's like the starter pack to blah 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 blah."
Right.
But there's a director that does his shows based on music genres,
Okay.
and so he did one that's very popular, Cowboy Bebop,
Okay.
and
That's
that's
the one. Yeah.
jazz spaghetti western,
Yeah.
in space, and a space western. There we go. It was like spaghetti western. Yeah, it's a space western, and it's set to jazz music. And then
Mm-hmm.
they had a hip hop one that was Samurai Champloo,
Mm-hmm.
and that one, it had the b boys in it. It had graffiti. It had an episode about graffiti. It has like
Yeah.
all the sword play is basically the dancing and stuff like that. And so
So I definitely am not that into anime, but he happened to list like two of the four that I do know. I've definitely watched Samurai Champloo; it's amazing, and Cowboy Bebop is also dope as well. But you should still check those out if you haven't.
it's hard because like most anime has like the same generic like singing songs about the future and friendship and blah blah blah, and they're all J rock kind of e things or J pop stuff. But there's occasionally ones that have like an interesting twist, or they like play off of American culture and things like that. So would I make it? I don't know. But then again, where am I going to be in 5 years? Who fucking knows? So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. What do you? That you led me right into what I was gonna ask next. Like, what do you think you're gonna be doing? Like, say, the beginning of 2020.
Well, right now I am trying to buy a house.
Oof.
So, yeah, oof, indeed. It's like such a stupid process. God, I hate it so much. But I'm basically trying to expand because then I can kind of create a studio in my garage
Right.
and have a bit more people over, and I can have my own backdrop that I can control a bit more instead of, wandering out into the forest and taking pictures of people like
Right.
around trees and whatnot. Not that that's not cool, but it would be
Right.
nice to have a bit more of a stable environment to be able to do like smoke bombs and things like that, and which will be so that's like my starter pack, and then I'm going to start mixing a lot more. So that's for 2020, and then where that leads, who knows? How about you? What are you doing in 2020?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know what I'm doing in 2020. I feel like I'm gonna write more, and ideally, this whole podcast thing gets off the ground.
Right on.
Um,
Well,
yeah,
yeah, it's all about quantity of and quality of content.
yeah,
Podcasts are hard.
they are hard.
Yeah.
I've, maybe I should listen to more because I only listen to like two or three, and whoever out there is listening to this is gonna be like 2 or 3. This guy doesn't know anything.
Yeah. You got to get into like what is it, lore or
Yeah,
serial or whatever
yeah.
the
Listen to
ones that really engross people in.
listen to some Joe Rogan experience. I can get a
Oh,
massive group
yeah,
of listeners out there.
that's right. Man. Yeah, I don't know. The podcast world is such like a uh, I don't know how to describe it. It's like I'm too afraid to dive into it because it's such a huge market. But
Right,
it's like, where the fuck do I start? What am I going to listen to?
right.
Is it really worth my time? But I mean, I guess the same could be said about like getting into streamers online and stuff like that. Like, how do you find what you like and stuff like that? So, you know,
Podcasting almost feels like blogging like 5 or 10 years ago. Like everybody blogs, and now
yeah,
like everybody podcasts.
pretty much.
So
Everybody does that, or they do vlogs now. Yeah,
yes,
or TikTok. They're
I
all on the
I
TikTok.
I have not. I don't. Do you TikTok? Because I don't know. I don't understand
No, I
it.
can't. It's Vine. It's just Vine.
Oh, okay. That's why I didn't get mine.
Oh,
So
Vine was fun as hell. I mean, I'm glad that TikTok exists because it's just basically like Vine Part 2. So everybody finally gets that medium back instead of having to rely on Twitter because Twitter was like, we're gonna buy Vine and then we're gonna destroy it and never hold on to it again. So yeah.
I guess a little bit back on topic, because I've been having conversations with a couple people lately about like, oh, how do you do your blog? Because I've done it for 7 years.
Yeah.
Just what like would you tell people who are like afraid to take a dive into whatever creative stuff they're doing? Like, what would you tell them? Like, what kind of encouragement?
Literally just keep doing it.
Yeah.
That's the hardest thing. Like that's why I hit a stopping point with Bento Bite. I did like 5 years of writing for it and I was like, I cannot do this anymore. And not to say that along the way there were so many points where I was like, I can't fucking do this. I can't write another article about some children's anime that, probably nobody will read or something like that. Um, but that being said, that was because the medium didn't really work out for me. Like writing was never really my thing. It was just something I kind of got pushed into.
Yeah.
Whereas photography, I kind of like dove into it, and let me tell you, like the first 2 years of my photos are like I look back and I'm like, oh man, these are fucking garb. They're so bad.
Yeah.
But as long as you keep doing, keep practicing, and just because I don't want to be like cliche, like do it for
Right, you
yourself
can
or blah, blah, blah.
do it.
But like literally just keep working at it. Like it's okay to take a break, like for like a month or something like that, and be like, I'm just not feeling it right now, and then come back to it. But just don't give up on it because then it truly is dead. Like I'm sure my writing skills are back to square one, but I just kept doing it with photography and kept pushing. And I wouldn't say I'm successful, but I would say that at least I can notice the difference, and I've certainly improved from several years ago. So yeah, just got to keep doing it. And especially even if you like the biggest problem I'm seeing is a lot of people are like doing it for likes or followers and things like that. And like I even have to learn sometimes because I posted a bunch of pictures of like nature scenes and things like that, the things I saw on my travels, and like none of my followers love that shit. Like I can tell you that all the likes on that stuff are people that I know. And those are all people being like, oh, Pat's up to something cool. Oh, great. But unless it's a cosplayer or model, like most of the other people don't give two shits about it. Right. So, and I guess it's learning that too, because it's not going to stop me from taking more nature pictures and stuff. I'm just gonna post it somewhere else, just not on my main account anymore. So, but that was also kind of like disheartening. I was like, this is a really good photo. Fuck you guys. I really like this. Do you know how much time and effort and money went into me taking a picture of this fjord? A lot. All right. Appreciate it. And now I'm like, who gives a shit? Everybody else, anyone who's like a friend of mine, I've shown that like those pictures to, and they've been like, oh man, that's incredible. That looks so cool. And yeah, no, don't let the internet take over your joy in it, because it'll ruin it. Oh boy, it'll ruin it.
Yes, it will.
Man, I couldn't even like look at anime for like a period where I was like, my roommate Matt, who helped me, who started, it really was the idea behind starting Bento Bite. He was the one that was like, come check out this anime, dude. And I'm like, I do not want to see another fucking anime between now and like, the next 2.5 years. And then, 2 months later, I'm like, okay, what is it again? Like, search it. Like, once you lose sight of the fun of it, then you need to take a break and then come back. Because you should come back to it, because there's a reason you liked it to begin with. So.
Yeah, I think it took me like 4 or 5 years to realize how important the breaks are, because when you just keep pushing stuff out, then you're just a robot, and it doesn't really feel like, it feels like you're doing it just because like you have to, as opposed to wanting to.
Right. Versus like kind of getting excited about something where you're like, it's okay to take a little bit of a break for everything. Because I sure shit like have had periods where I'm like, I don't have any photos, but I really don't feel like going out of my way to like call some people up and go run around in a forest real quick to go get some more. Like, and those are nice, because then when you do finally get back into it, you're like excited again. Like being back in the studio to edit is like super fun for me. Like I'll usually, I used to just like get depressed, and I was like, this is perfect time to edit, because I just turn up electronic music really loudly and sit at my desk and just edit for hours. Because when you're sad, you're like, I want to do something, but I'm not interested in anything, and it's a perfectly mindless thing to like work on and crank out like while you're sad. But nowadays I'm like kind of excited for editing, because I'm like, oh, that was a really dope photo. Can't wait to turn that around and push it out so everybody can see it. And then it turns out that they don't like pictures of fjords, so like it's it's whatever.
Everybody go find his fjord picture.
No, it's fine. I'm not upset. I'm okay, I promise.
Find it, hurry.
I'm just picking on the one. There were plenty of others that didn't get love either, but that was the first one I could think of. Was like, okay, what photo of mine recently did not get a lot of likes? That was a nature photo, and I was like, that's it. Yeah. So just keep plugging and chugging, but don't be afraid to take a quick break, understand why you like it, and get back into it. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Well, you should tell us what all your handles and channels and such are.
Oh yeah. Well, the only one that matters right now is, I guess you could follow Bento Bite, but there's not a lot of activity on it anymore. But if you're into anime and cosplayers, there's 5 years of reviews and news articles and things like that written on bentobite.com. But me personally, you can follow me on Instagram at Otto Shotgun. That's OTTO, and then shotgun like the weapon. Or I guess it's really hard to find me on Facebook because I have those like Swedish hatches, or no, Norwegian hatches. But yeah, I think it's just officially Otto at Facebook, and you can find me pretty easily. So yeah, if you want random sampling of things on SoundCloud, I've got those too. It's like I've got, I think, a lo-fi hip hop beat with piano on one. I've got a synthwave track on another, and then a techno beat on another one. So I'm kind of all over the place. I kind of usually just, oh, hello there. Someone's honking at us.
Fun fact is I don't really have a podcast set up as of yet. This interview was conducted in his car, which is why you hear another car's alarm going off.
It's kind of like I sit in the studio with my Machina. I have like a Native Instruments Machina,
Yeah.
and I'll just like kind of get in a mood, and I'll just play around with a couple of synthesizers, and then like find a beat and just kind of pursue it. Like the stuff on my SoundCloud is like very tip of the iceberg of all the shit that's on my computer at home. Because naturally, like any other music producer, you have like thousands and thousands of projects that you've all started and then never fucking finished.
Right.
So
That sounds familiar.
yeah, you're like, I can't wait. It's like you want to let people know about it because you like want them to be hyped about it, but you also don't want to spoil it. And then you don't finish it, so then literally it just doesn't look like you've done anything for the like 6 months. But that's okay. Fun. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, thank you for joining me.
Of course.
And that about wraps it up for episode 1. I want to thank again Pat Moore, aka Otto, for being my first ever guest. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Let me know if you did. If you didn't, give me some constructive feedback. And the next episode, if you've ever heard the term "they shootin'," then you may have heard of this guy. He's a fantastic photographer, and you'll learn more next week.